Marvel Rivals is a wake-up call, and let's find out why.
Is a reckoning. 20 million players in under 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That is insane.
It really shows you how there is still a market for hero shooters. It just, you gotta just be good, and they just gotta be a good game.
What is going on? It's light, it's fun, it's flashy, it has some of the best character designs I have ever seen in any Marvel property, period.
Yeah.
And on top of that, it has a battle pass that doesn't expire. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep,
Thank you so much for this lesson that you
honestly, I don't understand the whole point of buying battle passes and you're not owning them. I guess it's more leaning towards the thought of it buying isn't owning, apparently. Apparently, it's buying is access. But if if buying isn't owning, then piracy isn't theft.
teaching to the industry because they need to learn it. And that's exactly what this game is doing right now, because this entire year, we have heard the same line of garbage towed across the entire industry as to why live service games have been failing. It's not the character designs. The people who are talking about that are toxic. It's not that we don't understand what the players want. It's that there's too much competition in the industry right now. It's not the gameplay. It's because people just aren't, interested in hero shooters anymore.
Lies.
Really?
Lies.
Is that what it looks like?
Really? Look at that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they hit a new landmark, right? And everything. And they're just they're hitting so many roofs, so many new levels that it's just like, it shows if it's a good game, if it looks good, it feels good, it shoots good, the voice acting is good, the art's good, gameplay is good, there's a healthy balance of casual and ranked players and like market. It does good.
Like to you.
Real quick, I think the best thing they did right is that they made every hero free. They made them all free, and that is what makes me love the game more.
Back and forth while feigning ignorance, and we've had some incredible games this year. We've had some incredibly popular games this year, but we haven't had that game that stood as definitive proof as to what the players have been asking for a long time. We haven't had that, 20 million players in under 2 weeks kind of proof, and that's exactly what Marvel Rivals is. It's a very fun game.
It is very fun.
And that's the main reason why people are playing it. It came out of left field for me. I'm actually a bit shocked to see. Actually, I'm not that shocked to see how popular the game is, because after playing it, you can see why everybody's playing it right now.
Myself, I didn't even know about it until it came out. So I feel like I missed the pre-hype, but like I'm just glad it's out, and I'm glad I could enjoy it.
But I think that this game stands as a lesson for the rest of the industry. And I think in a lot of ways, the people that were talking about live service games this year and why they were failing, they might need to go into hiding after this one. So you could use today's sponsor.
Oh God, he's about to do a VPN sponsor. Let me quickly just say before this goes on a rant. If any D2 devs, if any D2 devs are here, any Destiny 2 devs are here, hide, bro, hide. This is showing what you could be doing. All 3 developers left in the industry, employed. All 3 employed developers. You need to hide right now. This is not good for you. This is a bad luck.
Delete me. So let's talk about something really important. Your personal privacy. If you've ever Googled yourself like I have, you know.
All right,
now let's get to it. In a year in which we've seen many live service games fail, and a few of them even shut down within the same year that they were released, one now stands as the crowned king of 2024. The list of excuses has grown incredibly long. The players are sick of being ignored, and in many ways, for those players who've been mistreated by other games, studios, and publishers, and subsequently lost interest and hope in those games, Marvel Rivals stands as their new refuge. Right at the end of the year, in the same week as the release of Path of Exile 2's early access, the game climbed to 480,000 concurrent players on Steam.
I forgot about Path of Exile. I want to try out Path of Exile 2. That's a game I do want to try out. But I will try it out. I will, but just not yet. But I definitely want to try it out.
While pulling similar numbers across PlayStation and Xbox. The developer announced in just under 3 days that the game had reached 10 million players. Just over a week later, they would update that number to like 20 million players.
Yeah.
Regardless of it being free to play or having the Marvel IP, while those are definitely factors here, we've seen plenty of games, especially live service games, fail to garner any level of success. However, Marvel Rivals seems to have something that everyone else is missing. Now, I've been busy with other content and other games. However, whenever I get the chance to, I've been logging in and playing with friends. This game feels incredible to play, and that's something to take note of. That is incredibly important here, especially in this genre. There are very few performance issues. The controls feel fantastic. Every character feels entirely distinct from the other.
Yes.
We aren't beating the accusations here, as the great and wise Mike Ybarra so brazenly pointed out on Twitter and then later was shamed into deleting the comment. Marvel Rivals is essentially Overwatch. There is a lot more here than just a fresh coat of paint. Marvel Rivals is a live service competitive multiplayer game developed by NetEase, offering players the opportunity to fight in an Overwatch-style game using iconic Marvel superheroes and villains. This game is the quintessential hero shooter, offering a roster of beloved characters including the likes of Spider-Man, Magneto, Storm, Iron Man, Captain America, and more. What really sets Marvel Rivals apart from many of the other live service games is its commitment to staying true to that Marvel brand, offering a staggering 33 heroes at launch, all with abilities and skills that genuinely suit that character, combined with arguably some of the best character designs in all of Marvel. I think that's where Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League really went wrong. They didn't stay on brand. They forced the characters and the setting into a looter-shooter mold for profit purposes. None of the characters really used any of their trademark abilities, and everyone used generic weapons and guns to fuel that looter-shooter formula. In Marvel Rivals, you are playing as those heroes, fulfilling roles that they are best suited for and using abilities that make sense for that character. What's really interesting with Marvel Rivals, and this is pretty much across the board, is there is a much higher skill ceiling due to the depth of mechanics between each characters and how they synergize together.
The team-ups are in the game have unique... It's just the team-ups, the one I've been trying to use a lot, because I only know how to use one tank, and that's Magneto. And let me just say, the difference between Magneto normal and the Magneto with the Wanda power-up is night and day. That sword is so good. I love it. It's amazing. It does good damage. You could use it a lot. It's high spam ability, and it's just perfect. And when I play without it, it feels like night and day. Like I feel like I can't do enough damage. I have to be constantly, I feel like way more in danger if I get pushed. I don't have any way to push them permanently back. I have to rely on my healers a lot more and everything. I can't save my healers if somebody pushes them. If I have that sword out, I could save them, all right? I could kill the guy attacking them and bubble them, right? But if without the sword, I feel like I'm missing more than I'm hitting.
Unique team-up abilities, passive bonuses, and activated abilities that can only be unlocked when you're actually pairing them with specific allies. For example, if you use Adam Warlock with Mantis or Star-Lord, well, he'll grant both of them a free revive upon death. This is something that I think really adds a little bit of extra flavor that this genre has been missing. That depth and flexibility doesn't just end with team-ups, you see it across the individual skills of the heroes themselves. In Overwatch, as an example, Lucio can pump it up, boost speed and healing, and he can knock enemies back, and honestly, that's about it. His closest comparison in Marvel Rivals, Luna Snow, can use precision to heal her allies, deal damage, she can give out shields, she can deal bonus damage with ice shards and slow enemies down, she can empower her abilities to pierce through enemies and allies, and she has an ultimate that can either heal or increase damage. There's a lot more in the way of skill expression and role flexibility across the entire game. Now, what that means in gameplay is that while Marvel Rivals is a bit less accessible than Overwatch is, it has a higher barrier to entry for competitive play due to the depth of the character roster and their abilities, but a meta is much harder to pin down in a game like this. There is a lot more in the way of individual skill expression between each character, and by extension, every match feels much more fresh because not every player plays the same hero the same way. I spent most of my time playing as Psylocke. I love this character. I love her in the Marvel Universe. I absolutely love her design in this game, and she's incredibly fun in Marvel Rivals. I think that in many ways, this game's biggest strength isn't about how characters fulfill their roles. It's about how the game provides this layer of player agency that I otherwise don't feel like I get in other games.
Wow, I'm not a frontliner.
I don't really like being in the mix. I like sneaking around, peppering enemies with a bit of damage from the sidelines to support other characters. I ignore the objectives and catch players who freshly respawn that are trying to get back to their team, and then I'll drop in out of nowhere with an ultimate to take out a bunch of enemies and disrupt the point, and then fade back into the shadows.
I mean, it's a
I want everyone
Psylocke,
to forget that I'm even there until it's too late. Marvel Rivals has the vision to allow players to be able to play their own role rather than the one that the game assigns to them. The minute that this game came out, I started getting Discord notifications. I got messages from friends. Have you heard about the game? Are you going to play the game? Do you know anybody else that's playing the game? And that is incredibly special for a game like this, because that's exactly what the developer wants, and that's exactly what a community wants for this kind of game, because you want more people that are playing it. You want people to go out and try to find more people to play the game with. And it just goes to show just how popular this game has become in such a short amount of time, and I think it's going to continue to grow in popularity because it is a really fun game, and a lot of people are really liking it right now. And in a lot of ways, it reminds me of the launch of the original Overwatch. And not just because of all the images people have been sharing online. What is up with people's obsession with wanting to put a big, I'm just not even going to touch that one.
I'm going to be honest here. I never played Overwatch 1. I only played Overwatch 2. So I don't even know how it was in OG Overwatch. I never really played even the that thing in Overwatch 2 when they brought back OG Overwatch for a bit. I still even haven't tried that. I just haven't had any interest in it.
It feels like you're eating popcorn. Just one more. And the next thing you know, hours have gone by. You've been swapping between these different matches where it's chaotic and people are still trying to learn how to play the game. Everybody's kind of out for themselves. And then you drop into a match that almost feels surgical, where everybody understands their role. They know what they need to do. They understand the maps. And it just feels great to play. And I think if there was one thing that I had to point out and say, like, this is Marvel Rivals' biggest strength, and it's even bigger than the Marvel IP itself, and it's just that the game feels really good to play. And that's something that I think a lot of studios have gotten wrong over the last couple of years. There's no hit registration problems. There's no netcode issues. There's no disconnects. I haven't had any problems with FPS or anything like that. The menus are really easy to navigate.
Yeah,
the UI is super
everything's
clean.
been fine.
I don't have any problem with being able to tell allies from enemies in the game. I can't tell you how many times I ran into games like that. And yeah, it just feels really good to play. The animations are solid. The controls feel really good. The character abilities make sense and look really cool, but nothing ever really, obfuscates your vision while you're playing the game, which is really important in a game like this. And that's something that they get right. And I think that goes a really long way with something like this. And one of the other things that I like as well is that they're not going to paywall characters behind battle passes or microtransactions.
Exactly.
They're just keeping it cosmetic. It's the best way for you to be able to do it with a game like this. And something that I really like is that you actually have to go looking for the monetization. It's not just in your face. And I'm going to trigger some people when I bring this up. But you know those games that like to hit you with like 4 or 5 different notifications?
Destiny 2. Destiny 2. Buy this expansion now. Buy the Witch Queen expansion. Buy the Lightfall expansion. Buy the Final Shape expansion. Oh, do you want any of the new Dawning gear coming out? Oh, what about the new dungeon is out? Go buy it now. It's like, I'm trying to play the game.
Or menus of like different things that they're trying to sell you before you can even get in to play the game in the first place. Marvel Rivals does not have that. Open the game, press play. You're in a match. Simple as that. And by the way, incredibly quick match times. I mean, you hit it. And it's just like match
instant.
Bound. There's no delay or anything like that. It's great. I love it. And, in a lot of ways, when I'm looking at this game, I think that I look at the industry and I see how they've been covering it, talking about its success in the reviews and things like that. And they're really downplaying it. They're oversimplifying it. Well, it's the Marvel IP. Well, it's a free-to-play game. That's the reason why this game is doing so well. And they're really underselling it because I think the truth is a lot more nuanced than that. Marvel Rivals doesn't just replicate what others have done right. It also does better what others did wrong. And
it's pretty much just I'm you but better. I'm you all but the bar's down here and I am all the way up here and I don't have to deal with your stuff. I pretty much analyzed everything you guys did and I am for sure just the better product, the better product, better heroes, better match times, better ranked, better characters, better character design, better colors, all of it.
In that, what they're doing is they're picking up all the players that have been left behind. A really popular discussion that I've seen recently is both games executives and games media that have been writing this line of games being ripoffs of successful games, and that's the major factor as to why those games have been able to find any success, which, yeah, duh, but at the exact same time, There's more to it than that, and that undermines the success of that game. We saw the same thing with Palworld on its release. Its design and gameplay elements were definitely emulating Pokemon. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, but it was
a mere
funner.
copy doesn't find 25 million players the way that Palworld did. Or now 20 million players for Marvel Rivals and its inspiration that's taken from Overwatch. Now, I will say I find it incredibly rich to see that Mike Ybarra, ex-Blizzard president turned sports betting CEO, now there's a career change that makes a lot of sense. It tells you a lot about the industry today, now doesn't it? However, he went to Twitter to say, looks like Overwatch Marvel Rivals ships tomorrow, much like Light of Motrium, a clear copy of Horizon Zero Dawn out of China. I mean, even the character name, Widowmaker in Overwatch versus Black Widow in Marvel Rivals, LOL. NetEase, Tencent.
Bro, man does not know. Man does not know how long Marvel has been around, do they? Black Widow has been a character for a while, my guy. Oh, in the comments. Oh my god. Yeah, community notes. Natasha Romanoff, aka Black Widow, is a popular Marvel hero from her comic debut in the 1964, more than 50 years before Overwatch and Widowmaker were created. This poster is spreading misinformation. Link to the thing. Do you find this helpful? Absolutely. Ratio.
All the same. Ironic coming from somebody that used to work for Blizzard, a company that outside of a few hits has built its entire empire off of copying successful games, modernizing them, and then re-releasing them to even more success. I mean, Overwatch isn't even original. Most of its core mechanics and premise were directly taken from Team Fortress 2, but I've seen a lot of people comment on this tweet. However, the one thing that I see that apparently nobody else does is fear and coping. If Palworld ever beats the sales of a Pokemon release, if Marvel Rivals buries Overwatch, if Light of Motrium outsells Horizon, what does that say about the empires that you've built and the games that you've made? If somebody can simply walk up, take what you've done, make it more fun, more edgy, more sexy, or whatever, and then immediately find success, aren't you the one that's failing to meet your customers' needs? Overwatch was massive when it first released, and it held that popularity for a long time. However, Blizzard, over the years, squandered all of the goodwill that they had created with that game. They killed their competitive scene by getting rid of the Overwatch League. They erased the original game when making Overwatch 2, effectively bricking physical copies just because they wanted to push people into a new microtransaction ecosystem. For many, that was the breaking point. The players that remained behind did so because they actually believed in the promises that Blizzard had made for Overwatch 2.
That worked out.
The PvE mode, the added depth, the value that was supposed to come with all of these great sacrifices that they forced upon.
The PvE mode. You know what? Marvel, I need you to put the nail in the coffin and light the coffin on fire. Drop a PvE mode. Not even because it would be good, but just to be extra petty. All right, Marvel Rivals. Make a PvE mode, and my life is yours.
Upon the player. But in the end, all of that was taken away. All the future plans and promises were canceled. What they were left with was a stagnant live service game that was no better than the original version, that barely even changed, and had only taken their money and their hope. There's no loyalty there anymore. So when we see a new game like Marvel Rivals step out onto the scene, it has a ton of recognizable characters, more depth, and a clear vision of the future. Well, it's easy to see why players would go to play that game. I mean, Blizzard is practically forcing them to at this point. That's why I always thought it was odd when I would see how often games media would talk about why Sony's Concord failed, claiming that it had to do with the fact that the hero shooter genre just wasn't in style anymore. It had nothing to do with that. In fact, I would like to believe that there's probably a growing hunger out there for something to replace Overwatch because there are so few experiences like that in the market right now. There are so few low commitment, fun games that have great.
Problem is that all the ones being made weren't that good. Concord.
Multiplayer experiences with low bars of entry and high ceilings for competitive play. That's why Overwatch succeeded for so long. It stayed true the entire time. Marvel Rivals is finding success because that need is still there in the market. Concord didn't fail because of the genre. It failed because it lacked the one thing that Marvel Rivals has in abundance: character. In an interview with Eurogamer, Thaddeus
$40.
Sasser, the director of Marvel...
True! Concord actually costs money, too. It's not even a free-to-play. I forgot. $40 to get in. That's absurd.
Rivals said that Concord didn't bring any unique value, and that's the reason why it failed. saying that the truth is, I don't think anybody can predict this, or the games industry would be radically different today. There are a lot of games that come out that people are like, it's going to do well, and it flops. Or people are like, it's going to flop, and then it succeeds amazingly. I think it's really hard to tell ahead of time, and you're always worried about that. The trick is you have to have that reason that people want to come play your game. I think that Marvel Rivals does that exactly with superheroes. I don't know about you, but when I heard about the game's concept, I was like, oh my god, I want to go be Storm in the game. I want to go be Doctor Strange in the game. I want to be those heroes in the game. That sounds awesome.
Yep.
And of course, my mind immediately leapt to all of the cool possibilities that you could have with that. And that's what I think will pull people in. And I think he's right. Heck, I don't even remember any of the names of the characters from Concord, and I don't think anybody will. Concord really didn't do anything. It had these characters that weren't all that well designed. People didn't really want to play as them or even get to know them, and the developers just assumed that we would want to get to know them. We know that because they had this whole plan and business strategy around delivering seasonal movies for their cast of characters. You either have to hook players with something that they know, or you have to tantalize them with something that is so cool that they need to know more about it. Concord did neither of those things while also looking not really all that entertaining to play. You know, another justification that I'm seeing right now as well is that the reason why Marvel...
Chat saying, Hoover and Concord called us talented freaks. I don't know. I did remember hearing about that somebody from there. I don't know who was. Game director, maybe? I'm not sure. But yeah.
Rivals is doing so well is because it's free to play. And then they make the comparison and say, well, you know, the reason why Concord failed was because it was $40. It would have done better if it was free to play. I don't think
not enough.
That's as big of an impact
not
as
much.
many in games media or even the industry thinks it is. From my perspective, when you make a game free to play, you're essentially just removing the ceiling on what kind of success a game can have, because you can basically reach any audience anywhere at any economic status. But at the end of the day, if a game is good enough or interesting enough, or it's a game that players just genuinely want to play, they will buy that game. I mean, Call of Duty still sells gangbusters. Overwatch wasn't free to play when it first came out, and it still did really well, and it stayed popular for a really long time. I just don't think it's as big of a factor as people make it out to be. People will buy the games. We've seen that all year round. The most successful games this year were games that were sold, not necessarily games that were free to play.
True.
Look at Black Myth Wukong.
Yep.
Look at Baldur's Gate 3 last year. Look at Elden Ring. Look at Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree.
Yeah.
There are tons of examples of games that sold just fine and really weren't limited by the fact that people had to pay for them. You know, it's actually crazy is that I can't remember exactly what video this is from. I'd almost guarantee it's from a wake-up call. But I talked about how none of these live service games, none of these publishers are out there creating any goodwill with their audience. All they're doing is creating a scenario in which players are ready to be taken away from them at any given moment, because all they do is take. They just take. It's always a net negative for the players and a net positive for them because they keep making money. And because of that, you're not building any loyalty. And that's why I think a game like this is succeeding, is because in a lot of cases, it's just players that have been burned by other games that have been waiting for something else, and this is the shiny new toy.
Pretty much like a refugee area where they're actually, it's the homeless shelter. But they actually give 5-star cuisine foods and actual good bedding.
And it looks really fun and cool.
You can't help but just come back.
And that's why players are going to play it. And what's crazy is that any company could build loyalty. They could actually hold on to their player base. I think a really good example of this is Path of Exile and Warframe. Years of customer satisfaction, and those players are stuck to those games. They're not going anywhere. Every single time they do an update, bam, player numbers shoot up. Path of Exile just released Path of Exile 2. Game blows up. Over 500,000 players on Steam. Who knows how many players across other platforms? Blizzard could have done that, but they didn't. They instead wanted to milk their players for all they're worth. And while I don't think we're going to see, you know, a massive impact in the player base of Overwatch immediately, we probably will see it over time. Because keep in mind, those players are invested over there. They have skins. They've been playing the game. They understand the game. They know the meta. You know, for the people that are in the competitive scene, you know, they're invested for other reasons as well. So you're not going to see a lot of those people move immediately. But I do think you're going to see it slowly happen over time, because one game has a bright future and the other game is just... yeah, I don't know. I think that Marvel Rivals director is absolutely right when he's talking about creating something to entice players to come over to your games. And for him, he's using the example of the characters, which he's absolutely right in that. I think that Having the IP is huge. It's very recognizable. People want to go play as the Marvel characters. I have my favorite. Most people have their favorite characters. It's fun to play them as those characters. And
I'm gonna say real quick, if you can't really give the IP does definitely help. We can't say it's the reason of its success. You could say it's a factor, but not a big reason. Why? Because if this game is this big, and somebody wants to say it's because of the IP, and why? Because it's related to Marvel. Then why is every other Marvel game not have as much, if not more, following? Right? It's a simple thing, right? Which means it's obviously not just because it's just related to Marvel. Sure, it helps, but it's not a good reason to say why it's doing this as good as it is.
It's also fun to fill that, player fantasy or that power fantasy of playing as that character and using their powers against other heroes and stuff like that. But one thing that I think that Marvel Rivals has proved that the industry is not going to be very happy with, and it's that players do care about how their characters look. Something that I've taken a while to figure out how to properly voice is that games across the board need to do a better job at inviting players in to actually play their games. And making your game beautiful and attractive is the best way to do this. Now, I mean this figuratively and literally. Dark Souls or Elden Ring don't need hot characters to bring you in. It hooks you with the setting, the vistas, the brutality. Path of Exile 2 entices you with the grotesque nature of its world. However, games that the player character is the main focus, narrative-driven RPGs, or in this case, the hero shooter genre, it is incredibly important to make sure that those characters are going to attract the player in to actually want to play as those characters, to learn about them, to be them, and ultimately buy cosmetics for them. Marvel Rivals understands this and executes on it with style. Before this game was even released, I cannot tell you guys how many times I saw images of Squirrel Girl floating around Twitter, Reddit, and Discord conversations. Hell, the first time that I was even introduced to this game was because of a tweet that I had seen where apparently one of the models that had posed for one of the characters and their CGI had been leaked. And the body model for Psylocke proudly let everybody know that that was her ass in the video game. Rivals has some of the slickest designs that I have seen in this year so far. They do an insane job of blending comic designs and anime designs in a way that doesn't take away from the original art of the characters. They still remain just as iconic, but they're updated for more modern sensibilities and tastes. You want to play as these characters, and the game invites you to do that because of how great they look. When you actually play the game, it's even better. You're bouncing between these menus and flashing yellow lightning characters popping out of the selection screens.
I gotta say, the best design for the animation is still Venom's, though. The Venom one goes hard.
Awesome intro animations. And in-game, the art style flows between this hand-drawn cartoon and cel-shaded thing that feels like it's straight out of the Spider-Verse movies, which were really incredibly popular and visually beautiful. When I go back and I look at games like Concord or Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League, it's clear that character designs play a huge role in drawing players in, yet these games miss the mark. In Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League, for example, they gave their rendition of Miss Freeze, and that felt completely detached from the character that we know and love. When you look across all of the characters in Rivals, every single design jumps out of the screen, showing you something fresh, interesting, and recognizable. And I think the same thing can be said for Concord, where the characters just felt completely forgettable. They didn't inspire curiosity. The designs felt so generic that there really wasn't even a reason for you to care. There was nothing about the game that screamed come and play, nothing to make you want to learn about their backstory or even experience the gameplay. And I think it's really important to take notice that Marvel Rivals has completely avoided this broader trend that we've seen across the industry, this heavy lean into socially progressive design choices that, I'll be honest, I just don't find them aesthetically pleasing. Nothing to do with personal beliefs or...
They went with comic accuracy, and Lord, ladies and gentlemen, I am happy to say I am happy with the comic accuracy, because nice.
Ideologies, I just don't think they look interesting or cool, and oftentimes they feel forced and uninspired. Characters that are introduced with seemingly little depth, lacking substance, and designs that are so clinical and uninspired that they fail to generate any excitement or interest. Instead, they're just turning players away. I've seen a lot of people ask the question, why do you even care? If you don't like the way that it looks, just don't play it. And that's the thing. People are not playing these games. They are failing by either creative choices or choices that are rooted in their own worldview. I want games to succeed. I want games to do well. I don't want developers to lose their jobs or studios to go out of business. I want more games to play, and the only way for that to happen is for more studios and publishers to face reality. Baldur's Gate 3 and Larian Studios' director of publishing, Michael Dowse, stated this perfectly. He said, 2025 and beyond is going to be an extremely tough time to ship a game, with division spilling into everything. I have one practical piece of advice that, to some, seem controversial, but it's crucial. Anticipate, don't ignore, or ridicule, or stoke. Figure it out, navigate the waters, even if you think they're unfair, or that the sea shouldn't be that rough. The reality is that it is. And he's absolutely right. That's just the reality of the world. Ultimately, when a game fails to deliver on its foundational elements, strong, engaging characters and designs that invite players to connect, everything else becomes irrelevant. Players need to feel drawn into these games' world, and they need to be invited in before they can even get to the gameplay. While many may wish that the world was different and they want to project their worldview onto their games and their characters, you are selling a commercial product that people are expected to buy for you to stay in business. And if they don't like the way that it looks, they're not going to play it. I want to be crystal clear on.
He's right, but I'm watching his gameplay. That Iron Man had no sense of self-preservation. He's just getting hit,
and they need to be invited
and he's
in
not
before they
really
can even get to the
moving once he comes
gameplay.
back.
While many may wish that the world was different and they want to project their worldview onto their games and their characters, you are selling a commercial product that people are expected to buy for you to stay in business. And if they don't like the way that it looks, they're not going to play it. Now, I want to be crystal clear on this because this is social media. People can and will frequently take you out of context and completely miss the plot when it comes to these conversations. So I'm going to be literal as possible. Looks alone will not and cannot bring you continued success. They can garner attention, but clarity eventually will take over and interest will be lost if there's nothing else there beyond the looks. A perfect example of this is The First Descendant. This game has some of the hottest character designs that you can find in gaming without having to private your Steam library. Many people celebrated the release of The First Descendant. It soared up to 260,000 players on Steam within the first week of its launch. It was well received on console, and it quickly became the flag to fly in the face of developers that were creating games for the mythical modern audience and the journalists that defended them. Okay. I played The First Descendant. I reviewed it on this channel. And while I felt it controlled well, it was one of the most shallow games that I've ever played. It was repetitive. It lacked diversity in gameplay, in content, and its progression and monetization was completely taken from Warframe, but they had gotten rid of all of the fairness and generosity. Overall, the game just had no soul. And to nobody's surprise, the game lost 94% of its player base since launch. Yeah, and the truth of the matter is, you need to have more than that. And I think that Marvel Rivals is likely going to be that proof of concept. It has shown that success in live service, or any game for that matter, is about making a game that resonates. It's about the combination of all factors that make a game successful. Marvel Rivals.
What is that? Okay, all right. Let me just read out chat right now, YouTube, or like YouTube comments, YouTube viewers, and just see what I have to deal with my chat. All right, let me read this out. First Descendant has nothing on the raw sex appeal of Kirby. Kirby got that good suck. My chat, ladies and gentlemen, my chat, and then my other one is just saying bore, which is true. Honestly, that is just bore content. Chat, you guys have no chill, which is why you guys aren't on the screen. That's why I don't put you on the screen, because no, bad.
Performs well, it's smooth to play, it has accessible gameplay that feels familiar yet fresh, it has a lot of depth, it has a high ceiling for skill expression, it has some stunning artwork and character designs, and most importantly, it's a game that understands what players want, respects it, and delivers it. And it's just a fun game. At the end of the day, that's exactly what we need these games to be. It's the most important thing is for these games to be fun and enjoyable, and that's exactly what Marvel Rivals is. It's very light. It doesn't feel high commitment or anything like that. I love the character designs. I love the animations of the game. I just like playing the game. It's just fun to play. And that's what you want from a game like this. You know, I've seen a lot of the reviews for this game talk about how it's just a messier version of Overwatch. And while I think that's true in some cases because there's so many characters and they have so many abilities, and the synergies and the team ups and stuff like that, at the same time, that's kind of the charm of the game. That's why the game's so much fun.
I have to say this. I love how strong the supports are. I like how strong the ults are. It makes it feel fun. When everything gets extremely too balanced, it stops having that appeal of having crazy moments where you do so a lot of stuff. It becomes so small. You have to be super try hard and everything. When you have, like, I'm not saying have broken characters, but when everybody's strong, you all have moments where you could shine if you can know how to play them decently well. Not and instead of being super have like 100 hours on a character, and then you could have no here you could just have 2 hours on a character and enough to understand the basics of it, and you could still shine in them if you're good enough. And not even like a high. Is the ceiling for success is way lower, but that's a good thing.
Fun is because of the chaos. It's one of those things where it's actually more difficult to describe and it's better off experience. So I highly recommend, if you guys like these kind of games, go give it a shot. I think it's really cool. Plus, on top of that, I just like to see games like this succeed in the first place, because I think they do show off a really good example of what players are looking for in games today. And it gives a better through line for other developers to emulate that success and, yeah, follow the leader in this case. And, you know, to be honest with you, this game came out of left field for me. I was not expecting this game. And I keep doing this to myself.
What?
I had written this game off entirely because I saw it was made by NetEase. And I am one of those people that used to have a bias towards a lot of Chinese game developers because I was always seeing the same kind of games coming out from them. Usually just blatant cash grabs, gotcha games, things like that. And it's just not for me. I like things that value my time and money. And oftentimes the games that were coming out of there were games that didn't do that. And I had written off Once Human. I was proven wrong. I written off Black Myth Wukong. I was proven wrong. I wrote off 12 Arrivals, and here I am again, proven wrong. So I am just gonna, you know, not sell myself up river when it comes to some of these games anymore. But you know, it's crazy to see like what is going on with China. Genuinely, I'm wondering if it's just because of the fact that they're not dialed into like the social politics and like social progressive nature of like just, you know, general discourse in the West and stuff like that, that they just cut through all of the BS and see like what consumers want to buy as a product and just make that product, and they ignore everything else. And that's probably why they're finding so much success right now, is because they're basically just ignoring all of the noise of the world and just making a video game as a video game and not really thinking about anything else.
I guess.
And it goes a long way. It's giving them and bringing them a lot of success. And I think that the crazy thing is like the East in general has cleaned up 2024. 2025 is probably going to be just the exact same thing, because if you looked at the Game Awards, a lot of the biggest releases were games that were coming from the East. Capcom's cooking. You got a couple of the other Chinese developers that are cooking right now. You got some, you know, some South Korean developers are starting to cook a little bit. They just need to get off of that bad monetization stuff. This is a problem with like some of the Eastern games, man, is that like they have some of the most overt monetization, and it just makes you want to have nothing to do with their game. They have such great premises for games, and then they just ruin it. And I'll be honest with you, like I look at a game like Lost Ark. I think this is probably the best example of it.
Never played Lost
Ark as a concept is such an incredible game, but the problem is that you put all the like gotcha mechanics with leveling up weapons that completely undermine the reason why you would play a game like that in the first place. If you're playing an MMO, it's to get cool weapons and equipment and make your character stronger, but when you make people pay for that, well then why would I even play the game? The achievement of getting that stuff rather than buying it is the reason why people like playing those games in the first place. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know. Anyway, speaking of 2025, this is likely my last video of the year. I just want to say thank you guys for everything. This year has been wild. I was laid off this time last year, and in a year's time, here I am now in a new career that you guys have so graciously given to me because you guys support this channel, you guys support the videos, you share the videos, you subscribe, you like the videos and comment and hang out in the Discord and show up to streams and stuff like that. And it's changed my life in an indescribable way. I'm not a rich man or anything like that. I'm just living a solid life, and I'm doing something that I love to do, and I appreciate you guys for empowering me to be able to do just that.
I want to get there.
I just want to say thank you. That's it. Stay cool, stay righteous, stay safe, and Merry Christmas, you filthy animals.
Okay.
Family.
Okay, that's actually interesting. All right. That was a good video. I gotta say, that was interesting. I gotta agree with most. This game really is a wake-up call. I think it's one of those things where it's like, it's more or less a standard being set about how good games could be and I feel like the more this happens, the less shit we're probably gonna be taking from shitter games. I mean, Concord being an example, right? They're just games where we just no longer care enough that they get shut down. So, for sure, has to be some type of it's kind of a wake-up call that hopefully we stick with. Having said though, that has been my reaction to this. It's been good. I actually really like this content so far. What I saw, subscribe and like the man. We'll probably cover more. Besides that though, it's gonna be all for me. Hope to see you guys later. Thank you guys for watching. As always, the original video is gonna be top in the description down below, and I will catch you guys next time. Bye bye, my lost souls.